welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. To everyone's special guest, Scott Reeder. How are you?
Doing well, doing very well.
Scott's got I guess you call it a solo album. Scott is known for the drummer of Fu Manchu, great, awesome band also. But you have a solo album I want to talk about today. Uh, I've heard it. I've been listening to it for
Yeah.
a while now. Got some time to let it marinate in my brain, hear it at different points in the day in different places, and it's good. It's really good songwriting. Let's hop in. What got you started on this album itself?
Well, it's kind of been I mean, I'm always like my friend Brad Davis says, just make music. It doesn't matter what it is. So, I
Right.
mean, I'm always doing stuff whether it's, recording a drum thing that I like or oh, hey, that's a cool riff or if I pick up a ukulele or something and it's like, "Oh, whoa, I could squeeze something out of that." So whatever it is, I'm always doing stuff. That's different than writing songs, and obviously I'm still learning how to do that. It really, I started it, I had wanted to start it and I started, I think, in the beginning of 2021. And I have a friend, Ryan Mall, who's the guy who produced the record with me
Hmm.
and engineered and mixed it. And he has a studio nearby me that he does all his stuff in, and it's really just it's a garage, really. But he's treated it and done everything. So we talked about doing stuff, and I had demoed these songs. I think except for maybe one. I think maybe for Daylight Apparitions, that was the last one written for it. But I
Yeah.
had pretty much demoed them all, and kind of using the method that we do. I mean, and I've done this pretty much in every band I've been in, but I mean, always kind of demoing and then having stuff ready to go into the studio. So, I mean, I started at 2021. If I would have gone in and done it in a straight shot, I could have had it done in 2 weeks. But
Yeah.
because Fu Manchu was still recording and things were kind of up in the air with that, I just basically took my time and I teach, drum lessons full time as well. And so I just did it on Saturdays when I could. And so it stretched out over a year and a half. And like in the fall of 2021, I went to Europe for 3 weeks, and so I just kind of took my time with it and did the first batch. Went to Europe, listened to the mixes, drove around the countryside, and I was like, okay, this is working because it's good road music, and that's kind of how I tested it.
It's good and it's relaxing in a way. Not like sleepy relaxing. It's good chill music. It feels like a warm summer day type. That's the vibe. It feels like very
Yeah,
70s. Like it feels. I don't know. It has that feeling of the desert rock thing, but it feels like also like the 70s Crosby, Stills and Nash. But
hmm,
it still has a modern sound to it. I don't mean like modern rock sound. It feels current,
yeah,
but it feels like
yeah,
it's paying respect to that style of music to begin with, I guess. Because you don't sound like
yeah.
anything in particular either. I'm not saying that. I couldn't say you sound like this band. I just hear this. I'm like, God, it harkens me back. It reminds me of different moments in the songs, to different styles of music that I enjoy. You know,
That's cool. That's cool.
it.
Yeah, I mean, the test for me was really like, I mean, because it was, I mean, like Fu Manchu stuff and a lot of the stuff that I like to play drums to. I mean,
Mhm.
I like to play drums to everything, but most of that stuff is it's riff driven, you know. And obviously the melodic part of it sort of takes a back seat, which is great, and I love that kind of stuff. But for this stuff, like the tool that I kind of used was, were the songs actually songs? Like,
Yes.
could I sit in a room and could I take a guitar and play you all of the songs with no, bells and whistles on it? And would you get, that it's a song? And is the song good? Well, that's kind of like, I have to like it first, which I think is the best thing. So, yeah, I mean, all those things you mentioned, I mean, when we went to record it, and I had demoed some stuff. I had demoed the stuff, but I didn't know, how it was going to turn out studio wise. And that's where Ryan is such a magician, and he's really great, especially for vocals, because I'd never sang lead on anything except maybe a couple of
Really.
songs here and there,
You have a
yeah,
great
and
voice.
so
Yeah, I mean, considering you're known as a drummer, you're a really good guitar player and
yeah.
singer. It's like,
Well, that's funny because like when I was in high school and I had a band in high school. It was a trio, right? Of three dudes, and we played everything from the metal stuff that was around to like early Van Halen to like we wrote our own songs, but
yeah,
nobody sang. So I had to sing as a drummer, and I hated it, you know. And I was just like, oh shit, I just want to play drums. So when I play drums, I just want to play drums. But I'm always kind of walking around and humming melodies, and I've always kind of done that. And then having to do the harmonies and stuff myself, that was where like a lot of that stuff I didn't have it planned. It was like two vocals, and Ryan would go like, "What about a third on there?" And then he's like, "Oh yeah, we have to double everything too," which I mean, I was used to that, and the stuff that I like that has from kind of like Nirvana style vocals
right.
to David Gilmour vocals, those are all doubled. And so all those things that you hear and that you kind of mentioned, yeah, those were actually, the songs had to be good, and then sonically I wanted it to get a little bit of the desert in there. I wanted it to get a little bit of like, you know, if you were in Maui in the 70s, even though I never was, but I've read a lot about it.
Well, that's what that's
I
what it
want
sounds like to me. It feels like you're reading the paper for like actually open it like you hear about the Manson murders as I'm reading the paper, listening to some of the songs in the background. Like it feels like it's got that summer vibe of you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah. I won't be influencing anyone to do anything of
No,
that
no, no.
nature
I meant like
anytime
in the
soon.
summer. I meant like the early summer, like when I imagine California, like the heyday of of
Yeah.
all the
No, I get
of all
you.
the music of all the music coming out at the time. I guess that's more of a benchmark of time, not actually the event
Yeah.
of all the
Hmm.
really good of all the good different music coming out at the time from
Yeah.
in the scene.
Well, there's that window of, I think it's like 67 to 72, where there's
Yeah,
like, I mean, there's all the stuff that's like really, really popular, but then there's so many bands that didn't get huge at that time that were kind of mining that aesthetic, that were sort of like singer-songwriter stuff, but then there was also a lot of heavier stuff too,
yep.
that
A
was
lot
like
of rock,
Sabbath
psychedelic
influence.
rock. Yeah,
Yeah, and the long passages. I mean, it's like the end of the record, that As She Drifts songs. I mean, when we were doing that and we did the end, I was like, okay, the sort of the target I was going for is like, this is my Starship Trooper thing, this is my end of that, because that thing, it just swirls and it gets
yeah,
heavier, and it's the same thing going around and around, and they add layers and add layers, and so that was kind of and Ryan got it. He was like, cool, and then other stuff, I was just like, oh, I want this to sound like, you know a little bit of Yola Tango with, maybe uh some Soundgarden mixed into it, because for me, like that era of music, and sort of the late 80s, early 90s stuff, that's
hmm
kind of like all the stuff that I like the most, and actually the heavier stuff is really, for me, it's harder, because it's like, you can devolve into cliche riffs pretty easily, and
right.
so you got to like really watch that. So, and because I'm in a band with three guys that can write insane riffs, it's like, obviously this is stuff that I would never intend for Fu Manchu, but like, I'm like, if you're going to introduce something, like, it better measure up, so
Well,
um
the bar is there for you. I mean, you know,
yeah, it's, but that's good though, because again, it's like you have to, you got to quality control your own shit. And I have people around me that I really trust as just musicians and songwriters in general. Like Brad's a great songwriter. I have my friend Mitch Townsend, who played on the record, is an out ridiculous musician. Can play anything, anywhere, with anybody. And those people, and people that I know, like my friend Mike Rosas, who I co-wrote a couple songs with. I mean, he's an insane songwriter. It's like, and so, my goal was to have songs, and that way, even if it's like people hear the songs and they go like, oh, I'd like to do a version of that. Great. I want it to be something that it can translate. And that's
yeah.
kind of like, with this project, that's kind of what I want to aim for, even going forward, is like, I have to have like good songs,
A
and
couple
that's hard.
questions. Well, it is, but they're good. I mean, it's a couple of questions. Usually, when you first, I talk to a lot of people. I do a lot. Been doing more of like the breakdown of the albums and different songwriters and people doing solo stuff, it's kind of fun because as they're branching out as musicians, they're doing something different. And so, like when it's a drummer, known to being a drummer, writes, the pattern usually feels like the songs have a certain rhythm or a cadence to them, a certain way. And this is one of the first albums I don't feel that. Like if I heard it separately, I wouldn't be like, oh, this is written by a drummer, which is kind of different, kind of interesting. The drums are good on it, but I don't feel like the drums. I don't think it has the drummer rhythm to it. I feel like it's written by a different type of songwriter. Um,
Well, I
do you know what I'm talking about when drummers write
interestingly
songs
enough, I
though?
have
Like,
it kind of,
you know what I mean? You get
yeah,
that
I do. But
musical rhythm.
the thing, yeah, the thing is I have it kind of backwards, and when I play with people, I always go off the guitar player. Like
Okay.
I never really listen to the bass players, and that's not to slight bass players that
Oh,
I've been lucky enough to play with. The reason is because most of those bass players play so damn good, and they play fluidly, and they play, in ways that are like, kind of more John Paul Jones esque. Like this record, when I played the bass on it, I kept it like as bare bones as I could, because that's like a fourth instrument way down the line for me. I don't even understand. I even told Ryan, I was like, I think you had somebody come in and replace my bass tracks, because I don't remember playing a lot of that shit. But I key off guitar players and I listen to the rhythms of the riffs. And I don't want to be, I mean, I would love to be able to play, lead stuff. And I did do, some lead stuff on this record, but I left it mostly to Bob, because he's kind of an authority on that shit. So I always listen to rhythms of riffs, and I listen to that kind of stuff. And so for me, it's like, if I have a riff and I like the riff, I don't try and do, I think, what maybe most drummers would do is they sing a cadence of a vocal to the riff. I'm always thinking, okay, what kind of melody can I have that goes counter and above that? So that's kind of the way my brain works.
yeah. Okay.
And so it's kind of like it's working in three different tiers. And I know that I can, at the very least, I can play the basics of what is required for the song on drums.
Yeah.
And over the years, I've learned to just try to get out of the way of but then, when things start changing and the riff changes, like I bounce off that. And really, if you hear, I mean, it's like that's what Van Halen is. It's not a band that where the drummer follows the bass player at
No.
all. If anything, Michael Anthony is the drummer, and then you have those two guys that are like a symbiotic brain that are
Right.
doing their thing. The Who is the same thing, shit. I mean, Led Zeppelin, people always go, oh, John Paul Jones and and Bonham are the great rhythm section. They are, but if you really listen to it, he's not playing off John Paul Jones. He's playing off Jimmy, and also knowing when to stay out of the way, because John Paul Jones plays so melodically and so, and there's so much music in there. It's like, you have to know when to just step the fuck back. And so that's kind of what my approach to it is get the drums out of the way and get the guitars and all that kind of stuff going. And then the drums and the rhythms will figure out themselves. So yeah, the songwriting and the melody stuff comes definitely first.
And it shows, I think, and I'm gonna say it's at the yeah, Some Kind of Murder is probably my favorite song to begin with, especially right now, because it
Oh,
feels like
cool.
there's everything has. I mean, I like a lot of them. I like the album obviously, but I'm saying, but for me, that album, that song just feels like has like the best elements of so much that I like in it, because the drums got this crazy thing going on. Like everything feels like it's playing its own part, but collectively it sounds fantastic together. But each of them could be its own separate jam. Like the way the bass is going, like everything feels like it's got a lot going on differently. But you wouldn't think about it. The way they hit together cohesively is great.
Mm-hmm.
And
Cool.
that's
That's the,
that,
yeah.
that that's a home run.
Yeah,
To
and
really get there.
that song too is like, the middle section doing what it does, and uh trying to play in a little bit like, down tuning so we could get like lower and,
Yeah.
have different feelings throughout. So that's kind of why, like, I don't know about really playing any of this stuff live, because I have to show it to everybody. And if I show it to people, then they're going to go like, well, how about this? And then they'll play it differently. and I'll be like, oh shit, why didn't I do that? But that's kind of cool though, because if the songs are good enough, I think then they can. I don't ever have this preciousness about it, like, oh, it's got to be exactly like this. I mean, certain parts need to be identifiable, but I think a live version of anything should be just that. It should be alive. It should be living. It should be breathing. It should be changing. And that's my favorite live stuff. So
A
I
lot of
don't
songs
even
grow
know
like
how.
that over the years. You look at songs they
Yeah, yeah,
first came
yeah.
out, especially bands' early first album songs. By the time they're later on in
Mhm.
their career, generally
Yeah,
they're pretty
it's
different. Depending on the band.
yeah, it's def. Yeah, exactly. It's no, it's those bands that are the ones that we kind of look to as touchstones to go like, okay, that's
Yeah,
you better try and be as good as that. They don't keep shit the same. They just don't. And I don't. I think that's kind of how you should do it. But that's just me.
the name. The name of the album actually. The name of the group of you, the group of one.
The group of me. Yeah,
Um, the first so call
I
it
am.
Jacket Thief. Yeah, I am me. I
I
am
am. I
myself.
am. I am too many of those people.
Malkovich, Malkovich. The
Exactly.
but you call it go by the title Jacket Thief, and then the album is Lights Out on the Shore.
Yeah.
What's behind that?
The name of the album,
Well,
or
both. Well, both.
oh, okay. Well, in the credits of the record, I have a very good friend, and I'll speak of him in the present tense, even though he's not here anymore, because he's an insanely good influence on so many people in Southern California and probably beyond. To a guy named Otis Bartholomew, who is known as O, and O was kind of like a punk rock mainstay from like back in the early '80s, and then he was a skateboarder, a photographer for this magazine called Trans World. He was also a, uh, a gnarly musician. He was in a band called Olive Lawn, and then Fluff from San Diego in the early '90s. Was responsible for getting my band Smile signed, and so many other bands. And I mean, he was everywhere. I mean, he was friends with Jeff from Pearl Jam, and uh, just everybody knows. Oh, he'd be everywhere, and he had all these different sayings. Anyways, I'll try to make it concise. But Smile was on tour with them in the beginning of the '90s or sometime, and we were at a show. I think it was San Francisco, sharing a dressing room, and somebody was like a homeless guy was in the dressing room, and he had left this big coat in there, and we kind of got him out of there and was supposed to be there. Anyways, did the show goes on into the night, go back in, do a dummy check, make sure we got everything, and this long coat still sitting there on the arm of the chair. And it's just, I pick it up, I'm like, this guy, this homeless dude left this coat. I pick it up, I'm like, damn, this thing's nice, like a nice lined trench coat. So I drape it over my arm, go downstairs. O's sitting on the stage. Yeah, man, great show. We're talking, okay, see you in a couple days, got a couple days off, right? And and I have the jacket draped over my arm the entire time. You can see where this is going, right? Maybe. Anyways, it wouldn't fit me. I gave it to my cousin who was bigger than me. We played a show in San Jose. He was wearing it. O comes up to him and he goes, "Where'd you get my jacket?" And my cousin's like, "I don't know. Who the hell are you?" And he's like, "Where'd you get that's my fucking jacket, man." And he's like, "Oh, my cousin gave it to me." "Who's your cousin?" "Oh, it's Scott Reeder." "That son of a bitch stole my jacket," right? So for the last 20 years, I've been the jacket thief. And he's told everybody the story. You can't trust that guy. He's a great drummer. He's a great guy. I really like him, but you can't trust him. He'll steal your jacket. And then so many people have glommed onto it over the years. Adam Grimm from Satellite Amps and stuff, would I'd see him and I'd go, "Hey, where's your partner? Where's O?" He's like, "Oh, he's back in the hotel." He's like, "You want to call him and tell him that you stole my jacket?" And I go, "Yeah, let's do it." Or like Tony from the Adolescents, because it's such a like a Three's Company like
Yeah.
mistaken thing. And so I dedicated the record to him because he named it. And then I mean, and he would laugh about it too. Like actually, we played Fu Manchu played shows with his new band, which Dale from the Melvins played drums on
Yeah.
in December, actually. And then unfortunately, he had a skateboarding accident and he passed away. I think it was January or February. It was a real shock to everybody. So that's where the name
Wow.
comes from. And we're actually playing. Fu Manchu's actually playing a tribute show to him October 22nd in San Diego. It's going to be good. It's going to be a lot of people there, and it'll be great to honor the dude because I mean that guy has a list of uh, sayings basically that we all will. He called everybody bitch. Hey bitch, how you doing? How you doing, bitchy? And one of his favorite ones was. You say, "Hey man, how's it going?" He's like, "I'm pretty good for a fat guy looking for a slice of cheese." And it was just I'm talking like a laundry list of sayings. What's going on? Oh, just letting loose with the how you doing juice. I mean, it was that kind of stuff. He called people Jacker of Onassis instead of Jackie Onassis. What are you doing? I'm just tugging it. Yeah. So I mean, we would all walk around. Everybody who knew him, the
Yeah.
entire community of people here at Costa Mesa, San Diego, up and down the West Coast. I mean, East Coast, whatever.
Oisms,
I mean, it's like
right?
Oisms, yeah. And we would all just, we all adopted them over the years. So it's kind of like he's still here because, I'll text my friend Chris, who's out on the road with Bob Weir. I'm like, what are you doing? I'll just tug it. you know and so he named it Lights Out on the Shore. Lights Out on the Shore is it's a song obviously on the album, and
Right.
I wrote that like in the last, I don't know, 3 to 4 years or something. And so that's just it's not about it's just about like um it's kind of got a few different things in it, but I guess the main thrust of it is to kind of like try to find your way and you know get where you need to go, and sometimes you can have help doing that, but a lot of times to get there you got to just do it yourself.
The
So
the Oh, thank you. It's always interesting because, like, what the title is, what the name of the group is, and actually the photograph is, it's a really cool photograph too on the album. Like the stories behind it, because it usually
oh
means
yeah.
more. Yeah. What about that? That's a good stuff.
Well, I took that photograph actually. I took it in Maui like a few years ago, and it was just a complete accident. There was a kid on the beach, and it was at night, and we were out there. I was out there with some friends, and and he was just blowing fire, and he had these torches, and he was kind of juggling them, and there were people playing drums, and then he would, and I was like, oh shit, and so I managed to catch that picture, and I've always liked it, and then I wrote the song, and I wasn't even thinking, and then I was like, oh okay, it would be a great
Yeah.
title, and I think it fits that image, and
It's a pretty, yeah, it's cool. It's a
so
cool
that's
picture. I
kind
mean,
of that's
it is a cool picture. I mean, that's how all my any of my good pictures are accidental. I could never purposely take any good.
yeah, you got to be, I mean, you definitely got to be there, and it's and then everything else, all the images, like the back cover photo is something that I took on a dive there, when I went out with Lahaina divers, and I think that was taken from the cathedrals, and it's just me like lying on my back underwater with a camera and just looking up and going like, whoa, okay, that's great. And so I took that picture, and it's just, I love it. It calms me down. There's very few things that do, and that does. So
The thought of being underwater, I can see the picture being calming, but the thought of being underwater like that in the ocean does not seem
yeah.
calming to me with all the shark stuff.
Yeah, I mean
Sounds kind of
yeah,
horrifying
it's
to me,
I mean,
actually.
well, yeah, and then also it kind of ties into a little bit to the lyrics of that song too, because there's a line in the song about, surfacing, you know,
Okay.
and and something about, I think it's like in your air there's no sound, and that's more of a reference to space. But if you think of the
The
ocean as
ocean
kind of like
is
another,
the ocean's like wet space. It's space but wet. It's pretty
yeah,
much
yeah,
what I think
yeah.
it is.
It's liquid space, or it's kind of its own universe, So there's a bit of metaphorical heebie-jeebie going on there without getting too like,
No, but I
highfalutin
mean,
about it.
it's no. But the ocean is, to me, it's one of the most beautiful things in the world. It's also one of the most scariest things in the world at the same time. You
The
know.
best, the best quote about the ocean that I ever heard was a David Crosby quote, and he said, "The ocean doesn't give a shit who you are, and if you really want to like get humbled, go out on the ocean, or try body surfing, and how the ocean will, try surfing, or anything having to do with the water, like your
Mhm.
plans will go like in a second because it has no master, you know, and I think that's kind of like why we're maybe why so many people are drawn to it, because it is a humbling thing, but it's also just like, you know, as everybody knows, it's serene, but it can also like kill you.
Yeah,
And there's nothing else, you know, in life that can do that, you know. So,
it's
but that's
yeah.
that's the best quote I've always remembered that. Like when I got in, like, oh, those waves look really big. Oh, I can handle that, and just always knowing, like, okay, you know, when you feel, I mean, yeah, there's been a couple times I've been in, and you know, as everybody has, you know, you're trying to get out, and the ocean's going, no, you're not getting out. I'm clawing you back in, you know, and then I'm going to throw you on the sand.
I've never had that desire to think I can take care of that. I'm like, I'm fine. A little body surfing, that's it. No.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I've always been, I mean, I'm a huge Jaws fan. So I've always been fascinated with boats. And I grew up in the desert. So it's like I wasn't around the ocean, but I would come to Orange County and, you know, we'd spend 2 weeks down here, you know, and I had family down here and I was close to it. So it's always drawn me. And um, I'm very at home on the bow of a boat. I've never gotten seasick. I can just, I don't know what it is. I mean, I can stand out there while the boat's going fast and be right at the edge and almost kind of lean into it. And it's just that motion. And that also kind of is something that I had, you know, that I mentioned sort of in the press kit about this dream that I had when I was a kid about, you know, flying over the ocean or flying too low over the sea. And then that's the first song on the record is kind of about that, you know?
Fine to low. And the first single,
Yeah.
TLFN, pretty funny, tongue
Mm-hmm.
in cheek, got a good groove, good single, fun video.
Yeah.
Looks like it's doing pretty good. You getting feedback from just like maybe getting newer fans from like, because obviously you have somewhat of a built-in audience that people know you over the years. You know, you've been in obviously Fu Manchu. Ironically, you played with the other Scott in Smile, which to make things even more confusing on the planet, because you guys had to be in the same band. Because
Oh,
that's
it's
just
and
perfect.
Sun and Sail, yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
so
the Sun and Sail Club thing. Yeah. Yeah, we had never met each other, and when we met each other, we looked at each other and went, "Wait a second, you're not me."
people don't know
And
there
that's,
is
you
another
know,
Scott
so
Reeder,
yeah.
and he also plays in the same, I guess, similar genre where everybody kind of overlaps, and
Yeah.
it's hilarious because in fact, you guys got a band together is even better. It's really, really had to happen. It had to
Yeah.
happen. You know,
It
you
had
guys are
to.
both great musicians too,
Just
so it
to
must have been a great blend too. You know, if you guys get
Oh
along well.
yeah, yeah. Well, we're yeah, and we have another we're working on another Sun and Sail record right now, as a matter of fact. So
Excellent. That'd be good.
there you go. Yeah.
That is just so funny though. Yeah, but to that point, I mean, so you do have people that know this, and this isn't like all of a sudden you're doing like industrial album or some EDM like dance trance thing. Obviously, this is still in the same wheelhouse of the fan base, you know,
Yeah.
which is kind of
Mhm.
nice because it's natural and organic that you wrote it like this. You weren't aiming for it; it's just who you are. Are you getting feedback from different all the fans or the members of the bands and stuff like from this putting it out there finally?
Um,
'Cause it's out there now. It's out there. It's not you just demoing and it's out there.
yeah. It's been pretty cool so far. I mean, the comments that I've gotten or that I have got, yeah, it's been positive. There's nothing so far that people have said that's very, you know, detrimental. I mean,
Yeah.
again, it's kind of that
Well,
one
I
of
don't
those
even mean
things
anything
where
bad.
it's
I'm
like
sorry. I don't mean it bad either, though. I meant like in a way like someone's like,
yeah.
oh, I know you're a
Oh
good singer,
no,
but I didn't know you
yeah. I
sounded this
mean
good. Like I didn't know your voice sounded this good. Like it doesn't
that,
sound like somebody who's
yeah.
not been singing for
It's hard.
years and been recording and playing guitar in a band. It
Yeah,
doesn't feel like you've been the guy playing drums and all of a
yeah,
sudden now you're this guy. So it's more a
yeah. I
compliment.
mean, again, it's kind of like that. A lot of people, yeah. I'm hard to take compliments of that sort of nature, but it's good. People have been very. They have made comments like that, like, you know, I didn't know, you know, most of it's like, I didn't know you were doing a record.
Yeah.
But then they're going like, oh shit, it's actually good. And then like,
And I didn't mean it
actually, I mean,
badly
I've had
either,
a lot
right?
of people mention,
You know, they're
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
you
And
sounded great. I mean,
I've had a lot of people mention, yeah, yeah. I've had a lot of people mention the lyrics and that they like the lyrics.
mhm,
And so that's it. I mean, as anybody will tell you, it's the
yeah.
hardest part, you know, because it's like, what do you do, and do you think in terms of like, do you write, just so that you understand it, but obviously, you want to connect with people on stuff, and so you have to write in a way that like uh that does connect so people understand it and relate, but
Yeah.
also you don't want to just do the June spoon moon thing. You want to stay away from that if you can. So that's been cool that people have like really keyed in on some of the words, and that again, time was taken on those, and it's one of those things where it's just elbow grease. You have to just do it, and 90% of the stuff you write you'll hate, and then there'll be 10% of it that you'll go like cool, and that's the stuff that makes it. So yeah, I've been pretty happy so far with the response. Yeah, it's been
Oh,
good.
I imagine it'd be a little surprising because if you're not expecting it, not thinking, not even thinking of you being a guitar or a singer, and then also somebody learning your guitar singer, being like, "That's great." I mean, I didn't think you were bad. I just never thought about it. Like, you just was not in. I didn't think of you in that
Yeah,
silo of that. Musically. Have you played
yeah.
out live at all with
I
this
didn't.
stuff?
I didn't. No, I haven't done any of it. No.
I'm sorry, I mean to cut
I
you off.
mean,
Were you
I've
saying
done
you?
it on my own.
Yeah.
I haven't played live. It's one of those things where I don't know. Oh, sorry, dog patrol. um, I don't know how I would do it yet. Really, I mean, I obviously like I would want to sing. I would want to play guitar. Finding the people that I would want to do stuff with. I have some ideas of how I would want to do it,
Hmm.
and then also, I'd like to work on some more material too, because really I don't have enough material. I mean, the album's only 42 minutes long, so not that we would be that anybody would want us to be playing longer than that anyways, probably shorter than that. So probably
Most
try and get
shows
some
nowadays at
more stuff
clubs though are
together. But yeah.
like an hour and 10 minutes nowadays. Most club shows for most bands now are between an hour and 10 and an hour and 30 at
Yeah.
most. It's not like you're
Hmm.
doing Pearl Jam or something, at Madison Square Garden for three
Yeah.
hours. You can get away with having one album.
Yeah,
I
no.
think it'd be great if you did that.
I don't want
If you sang and played guitar and you let everybody else do the other stuff and you were looking in. I can imagine the
to.
perspective.
Hmm.
You might give you a fun perspective when you start writing your next album. You know,
Yeah, and again, I would like to, if I did do that, and we did do stuff, as I start to work on other thing, or more material for it, uh, those are some things that I'd like to be able to, um, what do you call it? Just test material out with people,
yeah,
you know, and see how it works, and test it out live, and I think that's the best way to kind of get responses. So, but I have a lot of shit going on in the next year, so we'll know. Who knows when we would get to that. But we'll
right. So
see.
actually,
I don't have any plan. If we get a
we're
number if we get a number one worldwide, then I'll have to get out there, man.
you gotta get it out there because the rock gods tell you to get it out there. That's the only reason why you do music, right? You know,
Exactly.
because you have to do it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
The what actually I don't even know is the album. It's not released yet. It's soon, right? I got it sent to me, and I don't always have the dates in front of me. Just right to say
It
I
comes
don't.
out this Friday.
Okay, it's Friday.
Comes
All
out
right.
Friday. Yeah.
So it's out there, and I'll have the links below for everybody on the podcast and on YouTube. You can
Awesome.
go to it, and I'll have your anything else you want for sites to go there. So this next year, so
Okay.
they're gonna have to keep an eye on you if you do anything solo because you have the show coming up for O with Fu Manchu, and I imagine Fu Manchu's also got a full tour schedule loaded up for the year as it is. So you're gonna have to work.
Yeah, we're going in the studio beginning of November to record the new album, and then that's hopefully will be out in the spring of next year, I believe. And so yeah, we're setting up stuff already. And like I said, this Sun and Sail album is kind of coming along. We're gonna be doing some stuff for that, and yeah, in between that, I've got like other session work stuff that I'm doing with people, and students, and so but in all of that, there's always, I mean, I have guitars all around the house that I pick up, and um, and just always trying to adhere to Brad's philosophy. Just make music, and it doesn't matter what it is. Even if it's
Yeah,
something that I would never put out myself, maybe if it's decent enough, I'll just go like, hey, maybe. Because really, I mean, I would also like this album to be as a good vehicle to play some different stuff and maybe write with some people if possible, if there's people out there that kind of like the songs. I mean, a couple of them were co-written with my friend, Michael Rosas, which I mentioned. I have another friend that has a batch of songs that I've, kind of taken some stuff and kind of written pieces to. And, but, and again, not closed off to people doing their own interpretations of stuff as well, and maybe trying to get some songs in some
Right.
pieces of film or something, just because, a lot of it I think kind of does have a bit of a cinematic quality, whatever that means.
It does. It's really good. Well, I also want to thank you for taking some time today. Been fun
Yeah,
talking
for
to you.
sure. I appreciate it.
You've been on my list of people I wanted to talk to over the years. Anyhow, so this worked out perfect. We get to sit down and have a
Awesome.
little
Thanks.
chat.
Appreciate it.
I've been a fan of
Cool.
your drumming, so this was just such a bonus to get something totally like, oh, I didn't
Awesome.
expect this, and the album, it's really good. And I don't, yes, I'm so one-sided. I don't put anything bad out. I don't, in this show, I'm not going to, support something that's really horrible out there. I'm not going to put my name behind something if I think it's bad. I won't talk about it. I'll be nice about it, but I really like the album a lot, and I want people to check it out.
Awesome. That's great. I appreciate that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's
Uh,
I would, as many people, I think I did an interview with somebody and they're like, "What's the most exciting thing about the record?" And I'm like, "That it's out." That
right?
people are actually going to be able to hear it, and I mean, they've heard clips of songs and stuff, but yeah, I mean, I'd like for people to, I mean, however they want to listen to it is however, but I mean, I think the best way is to do to actually uh, not passively listen, but to sit down and listen to it. Once if you get the vinyl or anything like that, it's has continuity. It's got a form. I still believe in the album form. I believe in a
Yep.
beginning, a middle, and an end.
As do I.
I believe that this. I believe that the second song on side two has to be a certain song, just like the second song on side one has to be a certain song, and because those are the albums that still mean something to me, that have that kind of stuff. So that's just always the way I'm gonna
Right.
feel about it.
Well, it's great. I want to encourage you to check it out. I want to thank you, man, for being on the show. Appreciate it. We'll have you back again.
That